Okay, we're back on the Jaguar build, and in the last video, we got that bracket mounted, and that holds the tank here. And I got that sanded back down. I didn't like the way it was looking, so it's actually not looking bad now, but I want to get some different paint on it. But anyway, so as remember last time, that goes right in there. Now, the next thing I want to do is work on the radiator. And this is where we left it off last time. Just got that opened up because I need to build the core that goes in there. And the one thing I don't like about these parts is the fact that the sides are all angled and they're not 90 degrees like the real thing would be. Now, I understand why they did that because it has to come out of the mold after it's been plastic injected. But since the bottom's angled, that would make it want to sit at a weird angle. Now, the way the kit fixed that was they provided this piece, and this piece actually has that angle made onto it. So when you attach this to the bottom, like that, that now makes a flat surface, so that'll mount vertically. Well, this piece right here was replaced with this piece right down here. So in order to mount this vertical, I think I still need this. I think what I need to do is glue this on and then cut off the sides, cut off the bumps. So I'm going to glue that on and trim it all off so I have a flat bottom. I'll do that later. But before I can really worry about mounting this, I got to make the fan motor and the cooling fan that goes there. And I got to make sure that the fan is centered into the opening here. So I started making the fan motor by referencing the picture here. And this is what I've got so far. I used a piece of square stock, and then I cut off a piece of round and basically just sliced a piece of the round off to bond to the top. And notice I put another little piece there to make it taller. Originally, I didn't have that. I just had it as the square with that little bit of round. But what I did was I taped the piece I want to use for the fan. I basically just cut a part that would work as a fan. And I basically just taped that on here. I taped it on vertically this way. And then I stuck that up under here with some double-sided tape. And then I put this in place. And what I found was it was way too high. It was sticking up about like that. So the fan or something, I don't know if it's my fault for the way I made that or if that's how the kit would have been. Because remember, the kit does not include a fan. So I'm just trying to add it on there. But to make it centered, I had to add a little bit more to it there. And so now, with the fan mounted there, that will be centered into the shroud opening. The next step for this is to just glue on an end cap on each end, sand that all flush, and then figure out how to make a shaft. Now I need to shape the fan a little bit. As you can tell, it just looks like a long, flat, rectangular blade, but it does neck down right in here. So I just need to shape that a little bit, put a twist in it. I'll probably put some heat on it and twist it so it's, fan shaped. And then paint those parts and mount them in place, and then those will be done. So I'll get those done, and then I can focus on the radiator a little bit better. So I'll get back with you once I've got those made and ready to mount. Okay, here's what the fan motor is looking like so far. And obviously that'll get painted black. And the fan, well, I still need to shape that and pin that on there, but those are pretty much ready for paint. Well, I still need to, like I said, shape and twist that. The fan shroud right here, I cut off the edges that went here because, again, looking at reference photos, that didn't have that edge. That basically looking at reference photos, those go right up to that those little grooved features there. And you'll notice that you can now kind of see through those grooves. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. My plan was, when I make the core, I was wanting the core to kind of set in like this, but I didn't want such a big ledge from the front to the core. So I put this in my little CNC router, and I wanted to mill that down thinner, and I intended to stop before it broke through, and I kind of failed to do that. Now, that's not that big a deal. I know how to fix that. Basically, to fix that, I'm going to take some tape, and before I put the core in, I'm going to lay that piece of tape in there, just like that. And then when I paint it, well, that'll just get painted black, and the core will be on top of that, and nobody will ever know. So that's the fix for that. I mean, I could put a piece of styrene sheet in there, but that would then kind of defeat the purpose of milling it out in the first place. So I wanted it to be as thin as possible. I just didn't really want it to be that thin because yeah, that was kind of I was a little irritated when I broke through like that. But again, shouldn't be that big a deal. Now, I got that piece on the bottom, got it all sanded flat, filled in the gaps around here, got that all sanded nice and smooth. Now, as far as the shroud goes, like I said, I cut off the edges just so it would look more like the photos. But I also added, as you can tell, I added a piece of styrene across the top there because on the kit part, the shroud came up to here, then it had that little vertical part, and then the top of the radiator. Well, it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to go straight up to the top of the radiator, kind of like that. That'll help the brackets that I made earlier. That'll help the brackets match up and bolt in better, and it just better matches the reference photos. So the shroud is pretty much ready for paint. And speaking of paint, I got a comment on the last video that said that the fan shroud and the tank, this tank that I repainted, but I hate it again because the paint that I got is still not right. But anyways, he said that the fan shroud and the tank and the brackets here should be painted in hammer tone silver. I don't know if I can get model hammer tone silver. I think I'm just going to go with basic enamel silver, and I'll just do the tank, the shroud, and I'll have to hand brush the brackets here with the silver. I think what I'm going to do is just hand brush that bracket silver, those brackets silver, but I'm going to leave that part alone with just the nickel plating. I think that'll be fine because I'm not taking that back off, and I'm not going to mask all around that just to airbrush that. I mean, maybe I could. Nah, that'd be dumb. And again, when he said it should be hammer tone silver, I fully believe him. I'm not doubting it at all. But I've seen countless reference photos, and I've seen these black, silver, gray. I've seen the tanks like chromed, silver, gray. I'm sure multiple people paint these things multiple colors. So I'll paint what I can, the silver, but the main part around there, I'm just going to leave it. It'll be fine. I'm not too concerned about that. But again, that's ready for paint. The motor and fan are almost ready to finish put together. So now what I've been working on is the core for this. And I knew before I started that it was going to be a very time-consuming, tedious pain in the butt. But yeah, if I'd only known. So my plan is to stack alternating pieces of thin strips like this with the crinkled up aluminum foil. So that's to give you an idea. So just like that, that's the plan. I did some math, and I need about 40 or 41 of those, and about 40 or 41 of those. And yeah, the plastic ones are done. Here's actually 42 of the plastic ones. I cut them out by hand, and then I stacked them up and put them in the milling machine to square them all up, make sure that they're all the same width and the same length. So now I marked those ends here because when you take calipers and measure the thickness here, just a tiny bit thicker than the thickness here. Visibly, you can't tell, but if I flipped one around, then you'd probably notice. So I'm keeping them all orientated the same. So those are done. And yes, that took a long time cutting all those out and sanding all the edges. But now what I need to do is I need to make spacers. So I'm going to take a piece of that. I'm going to cut 80 little pieces that will get glued between like that on each end, and that will leave the gap for the foil. So yeah, I need to cut 80 of those and glue 2 to each one. And then I need to do 40 pieces of foil and not get it all curved and weird looking. And then I can start stacking up the parts for the core. So you know the plan. I'm not going to make you watch me do it all. I'll come back and show you when the core is maybe a little bit of the way going, just so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll finish it out, and then that should be done. So yeah, let me get some more work done. I'll come back and show you what that looks like here in a bit. Okay, so with the radiator, like I said, I cut out a bunch of these, about 40 or 42 of them, and put some little risers on them. And my thought behind that was, if I glued all of those together, those little risers would keep everything perfectly parallel and true and flat and straight and perfect. My problem with that is that for some reason that didn't quite work out. I mean, it was close. I think what happened was when I crinkle the aluminum, for example, I take the aluminum piece, and I showed you this already, but I roll it between the gears like that, and that makes that the crinkled part that goes between them. The thickness of that now is just a little tiny bit less than the thickness of the spacer that I made there. I didn't think that'd be a big deal, but after I stacked up about 10 of them or so, I noticed that they were starting to sag a little bit. Now I would do layers of 10. So I did 10 layers and then put that off to the side, then did another 10 layers and put that off to the side. And then I took the stack of 10 and stacked it on a stack of 10, and there was a gap in between them because the top of the first stack was bowed down enough that I didn't notice till I put the next stack on top of it. So what I should have done, and what I started doing, was just not even put the little risers on there. Just make the crinkled aluminum part and just use that to make the space between them. That's not really focused very well, is it? But just use that to make the space between them. And that probably would have worked perfectly fine. That's what I did for the last little bit of the radiator. And then I painted it. And here's what the radiator looks like so far. The paint is not perfectly cured. It's still a little bit tacky. But, I mean, it's kind of cool. You can see through it, kind of. But here's what the backside looks like. And you could tell that right about there, I just cut all little spacers off. And right here in the middle, I cut the spacers out just to try to get it back level again. Another one here, I cut the spacer out just to try to get it back level again. So it has issues, but once it's painted, I mean, I don't love it, but at the same time, for a first attempt, for a first try at something like this, I'm not completely mad at it. Now, as I've shown you before, I found some images, some photos. This one, everything is painted black. This one, that's painted black. That's left like aluminum or whatever metal that is. I'm assuming aluminum. I'm kind of going back and forth on if I like that better or that better. I think if I just do it all black the way I did, it's going to hide the crime a little bit better. This is definitely one of those things to where if I ever do this again, I learned some things to do different to make it better. Again, like not using the little risers, just using the aluminum crinkled part as the spacer itself. I think that would have made a big difference. Now on the backside, obviously that'll get painted. I did the fan shroud. I painted that silver because, again, a commenter said it should be silver. And I still need to cut some pieces off of that to make the edges there and on the other side. So not quite done yet, but it is getting close. So a little bit more work to do on this. That might need some more paint maybe. But I also got the tank painted. Finally found a silver color that I like. And I got the fan motor and the fan. And that'll just go together with a screw in the middle. So it's coming along. It's getting together. I'm getting close to getting ready to assemble it. I'm also working on the hoses. This is the hose from the kit. Don't know if I'll use that or not. I did find this. This is a piece of insulation from some wiring that I had. It's a little bit smaller in diameter, but it's a little bit more flexible. I don't know if the difference in diameter is going to make that big of a difference visibly on the model. I really don't think it is. So I'll probably use this just because I think I'll have a better time of getting this to fit than I will with this stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of step in and show you what the radiator is looking like so far. And like I said, it's far from perfect, but maybe perfect from far. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, a little bit more paint. And I'll probably do a clear. I'll probably leave that flat because this is just a flat black from a rattle can. I'll probably leave that flat, but I'll mask that off and do a clear coat over top of that. I need some more black in there. You can see the tape. But so yeah, some more paint and obviously fix the backside. Yeah, it looks horrendous when you look at it like that. And I was getting really discouraged, and then I shot it with the black paint and it actually kind of started to look like something maybe. So anyways, that's where I'm at there. I'll get back to you once I get some stuff more done and mounted. Okay, there's the tank mounted. And I've got the hose in, and I used JB weld to attach it to the brackets. And I went ahead and put one of those little sewing pins in there because I didn't want to take any chance of that coming loose because it's only held in with a small little bracket there of JB weld and a small little bracket there. That's not a lot of surface area for the epoxy. Now I did kind of grind in a little bit of a groove into the tank to give some extra tooth for the epoxy. And what I'll do is I'll go back in with the same color paint and I'll paint over the head of the pin. And I'll also paint where some of the epoxy might have oozed out onto the side just to help it make it look like that was welded on. So again, the little pin head, I know that's not technically accurate, but it honestly doesn't bother me any. And just for the added security of making sure that doesn't come loose, I'm happy with. And I really don't think anybody's ever going to notice that. Now for the cap, I took a piece of aluminum and I turned it down in the lathe, and then I put it into a rotary table in the milling machine, and just with a little 1/16 end mill, turned it and then turned it here to make that shape, and then polished it all up. Now all I got to do is part it off. When I part it off, I'll leave a little bit of a nubbin so that it'll go into the hole here. Also, when you look at photos, there's supposed to be a little vent line, or not really a vent, but like a overflow line coming off of there. You can see it in that photo right there. So what I'll do before I part that off is I'll use a Dremel tool in a little bit, and I'll just drill a hole right into the side there. And that way I can put in a little line to make that little overboard drain line. But that's the cap. And because again, I was missing that from the kit. Now the radiator's looking like this. I masked that off and put a clear coat around here. There's the other side. And So again, those edges there were cut from that piece that I cut out of the front. And I added a tube there for the hose for the top. I added the little drain, and then I put that piece in. That's original from the kit. And of course, the fan shroud attaches right there. And so that's pretty much ready to install. And to do that, I need to locate the holes in the bottom where they get bolted here, and locate the holes up top where they get mounted into the brackets right there. So, but what I can go ahead and do is attach that on for good. So I'll just need to clean the paint off of that edge for the solvent, and then get that solvent welded on, and then that is ready to install. So like I said before, the radiator didn't come out as nice as I was hoping, but for an experiment, I think it looks pretty good. And also on this car, once the hood is on, that's going to be really difficult to see. You'll probably see that side when you open the hood, looking in at that angle, you'll probably see that side more. Maybe? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. That's not that visible. But looking through, I don't know. Like I said, it's not going to be that visible. That's why I'm not too concerned about it not being absolutely perfect. But it was a good experiment. So on other cars where the radiator is more visible, I now have a better idea of how to do this. And my next one will come out a whole lot nicer. Notice some of the flat black got chipped off here. I'm not even worried about that because it's just natural weathering, I guess. And I thought it would be funny to glue little dead mosquitoes in there. But let me be clear. I think it would be funny, but I'm not going to do it because that would just be weird and gross. And I don't play with dead bugs anymore. So, like I said, let me get this mounted, get the radiator mounted. We'll get 2 more hoses put on, and I don't know if I'll be able to finalize it in this video because I ordered from Model Motor Cars some more of those hose clamps because I'm out of them. I don't have any more. So I ordered some more hose clamps because I'm going to need 2, 3, 4, 6 more for this. And also, I ordered some bolts that would fit in here. I'm out of those little 090 bolts. So I ordered some more bolts for mounting this and the hose clamps. So I don't know if I'll be able to permanently mount it for good yet or not, but at least I'll be able to get it in place. So I'll come back and show you what that looks like once that's all done. Okay, so there's the cap installed. And I think the cap came out looking pretty nice. Got the hose going down. And so that part of it is done. Now, I still need the hose clamps here. So the next thing, I want to get this mounted. So I've got the fan shroud in place. And so this is ready to go on. And again, this wire here is just for the headlights if I use them. Just get that out of the way. So I've got that hose right there in place. And that just goes right up to there. And again, I still need the hose clamps on that. And it would be a whole lot easier to put the hose clamps on that if I pull it back off, because I'm not going to be able to get in there to put the hose clamp on. So I've got to pull that hose back out for the hose clamp. But just to show you how this goes, I can put this on and get that part in there into the hose and then put that in place. And that sits in there just like that. And what I need to do then is from the bottom, locate the holes here and drill in for the mounting bolts on the bottom. So the only thing left to do is the hose that goes here. Now, the hoses that came with the kit, or at least the hoses that I got with the kit, I'm assuming this is what originally came with the kit, these are just way too stiff. If I try to bend that and put it on, This trying to unbend is just going to kick everything out of whack. Could make that come loose. Would make that hard to mount. So again, as I said before, I took a piece of this wire and I just stripped the wires out of it to use the outer sheathing. But to make that bend, even this was a little bit difficult to make that sharp bend. So what I did was I took a piece of this. Well, first, I tried to heat it up with a heat gun and bend it, and it just kind of melted and kinked, so that looks horrible. So then what I tried is I took a piece, leaving the wires inside, bent it over and heated it, and just clamped it like that. The wires inside kept it from collapsing, and then I yanked the wires out, and that left me with this piece. So now I've got a nice permanent bend. It's a little bit kinked, but not too bad. I can live with that. So all I got to do is cut that to length and put it on. Now the hose that's in there is a little bit long right now because it's keeping that radiator from going back. So I'll cut that shorter later. But to cut that to length, we'll try about there. And if I cut it wrong, I've got about 10 feet of this stuff. I can try again. Yeah, and I cut it too short on that end. All right, let me make another one. Okay, actually, that one was my third try, but that fits in there a lot nicer now. Actually, I might need to cut it a little bit shorter here. So it's still a little bit long, but that's too long is better than too short. So yeah, I need to cut that back just a tiny bit, so that goes back right there. And that hose is, I cut that a little bit shorter down there, so that's good. So the only thing left, other than just cutting that one a little bit shorter, is to install the hardware, but I have to drill the holes, put the screws in. Again, find the holes here, drill it. But as I said before, I ordered more hardware. I also ordered more hose clamps. So I can't do that yet till I get that in, but one more little detail. And that would be this decal right there. That decal. So I got to get that decal put on. Actually, I think that would go the other way. So let me get some water and get the decal on, get the hose cut short, and then we'll end this video for this one. Okay, so there it is. Got the decal installed, and it's setting in place. So like we said, all it needs is hose clamps and hardware, and that is done. So I'm going to leave this video as is for now because I don't want to wait to put the video out until I get the parts in the mail, so I put it out for now. In the next video of this, that will be finalized, and I'll be starting on the rear end back here. So basically, taking that all apart. Somebody else already put that together, so I'm going to be taking that all apart and rebuilding this, because I would really like to get this thing kind of like on all four wheels. Speaking of wheels, I still need to finish 2 of them, so that's going to take me a while. So I'm not sure when the next video of this is going to be, because I also feel like I need to get back on the quarter scale speeder bike. I don't know how many of you have been watching the quarter scale speeder bike build, but that has been on hold for way too long, so I need to get back on that. So next video, not sure if it'll be back on this or the speeder bike, but yeah. Until then, as always, thanks for watching.